Right on, writers. Welcome and welcome back. If you are new, my name is Adrian Santiago. I am your host here today. This is Books by Adrian, my online author platform. And this is where I tell you guys about my books. And this is where we talk to other people about their books. This is the Writer's Den, our new flagship show where we talk to said authors. So welcome. We do things a little differently in this version of the show. Those of you who remember Live Stream Sunday, remember the segment at the end with the live Q&A. We'll just do that throughout the whole show now. So please leave your questions for today's guest in the chat, labeled with a Q. Those questions should be directed to our guest today, S.D. Huston, the great and powerful. Constant collaborator with yours truly on the Tuber Book Club. She's an awesome author, and she started up the AWC with Margaret Pinard. She is all over the place, and so will we be today. We're going to be doing AuthorTube Corner at some point. We're going to be doing the Author Life with Shannon at some point. And throughout the entire show, you can play bingo. There's a link in the description down below. If you clicked it already and got something weird, I have fixed it. So refresh your screen and click again. It should just pop up a fully generated bingo card with all kinds of stuff that you may or may not recognize from watching my channel and streams on it. I am getting my Wi-Fi warning here, and I'm looking at the feed and it's looking kind of choppy. So I apologize for any streaming problems, but on the plus side, you can check that off your bingo card. Winners of the bingo will be able to plug something that they want on the show, whatever they want. A book, a video, a channel that you like watching, your channel, somebody else's channel, whatever you want to do. All right. Today's show is kicking off. Let's get to it. All right. So I am hearing from my guest today in the private chat that it is quite possible that this whole bingo thing isn't even working. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with it. It might be working, it might not be. Some of you might be sharing the same card. I don't know. Richard, you do not live rent-free in my head. I saw that in there. You behave yourself, young man. Let's get some music going, and we are going to get out our guest for today, so that we waste no time in talking to her. You know her, you love her, you know her, you love her, you love to love her. There's a third part to that. Anyway, welcome the great, the powerful Miss S.D. Huston. Shannon, hello and welcome to the Writer's Den. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm wishing that things were working, but you know, that's neither here nor there, nor is it your fault or mine. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And if the bingo thing doesn't work today, we'll do that another day. Shannon, you're well known around these parts. You hosted Tuber Book Club in my stead. While you guys read my book, you have been on there from the beginning, right? You started that up with us. All right.
I haven't missed a single episode. I was late to one, but that's it. That's because of the doctor's appointment.
This is a trooper right here, ladies and gentlemen. So I doubt that there's anybody out there that doesn't know who you are. But for tradition's sake, please take the floor and give us your introduction.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon. I write under the pen name of S.D. Huston, and I have a YouTube channel under the name of S.D. Huston. I'm the author of YA fantasy series, a trilogy that's about Irish mythology, but now I'm moving into fantasy romance, and I have my first book in the next series, which is a standalone, A Curse of Scales and Feathers, which is on Kickstarter, which is part of what brought me here today. And then on my channel, I sometimes publish content about my writing and my self-publishing journey. But these days, I'm mostly doing writing sprints, which I enjoy being on, have that focused time to, I'd say write, but I have not written much in the last 2 months because I am also one half of the AuthorTube Writing Conference. And so that takes a lot of planning. And then I'm also 1/3 of the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks podcast with Ben Pick from Writing to Write and Morgan Lee.
Yeah, you keep busy.
I do.
You keep busy. I put in your little animation introduction there. Workaholic ? We're not sure. We're keeping an eye on you just in case. We might have to have an intervention. Yeah. No, you're doing great. All right. Let's get into the interview. All right. So the first thing I want to ask you about is on your website, you have a quote from Maya Angelou. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Why does this quote resonate with you? Why is it on your website? Unfold, please.
Richard was just talking about how he thinks he's living rent-free in your head. There are stories that live rent-free in my head, but they're constantly, yammering and knocking on the door and they want to get out. And I have way more ideas than I can probably ever write. But it's also what's led to, like, I have a secret book I'm working on that's totally not at all anything I've written because that story has lived with me for 9 months. So I had to get it out. So it is like an agony, like these stories that are just, they won't leave me alone. So.
Yeah, I definitely know what that's like, where they're like scratching in the back of your brain, reminding you that they're there. Like, stop ignoring me. You got to do something here. We're going to talk about your book. I'm going to ask you questions about it and all that kind of stuff, the Kickstarter. But first, I wanted to play your book trailer. And like a bad host, I did not have that already pulled up because I thought that I did, and I didn't. All right, here it is. So I've got it right here. We're going to let the commercials play while I share the screen. All right, here we go. All right, let's start that over. It's not sharing. Oh, wow. I am rusty. Rusty. I dig it. Did you make that yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You've been getting really good.
I had, that was like version 3, the first version. I was like really proud that I got it done, but I knew it wasn't quite where it should be. So I sent it to Martin, and he was like, yeah, do you have time? So we met like on screen like this, and he was like, okay, at this point do this. And I was like sitting here taking notes. And then I did it from there. He said the only thing I could do to make it better would be to do an voiceover, but I don't know.
Yeah, I thought the same thing about my own trailer, but I'm like, to get the sound right and everything, like to make it actually worth it, it would actually probably make the trailer worse if I did it under the current conditions. You know what I mean? For some reason, so yeah, I feel you. Please, what is A Curse of Scales and Feathers? Give us the pitch for your new book.
Oh, geez, I really should come up with something that's very straight to the point. I mean, I do have like the tagline.
Okay.
Let me pull that up real quick. Hold on. Which is, she's tormented for being different. He's sick of burying his wives. When their fates are bound, can they forge a peace that entwines their hearts? That's actually in the video. So, but it is the overall series is about a curse on 4 brothers. They're called the Dragon Kings. So this first book is on one brother. So each book is going to be on a brother. And the first 3 they cross over with each other. So they appear in each other's stories. So they are standalone. The first 3 are standalones. And you can read in any order. But the first one is this king. They have to marry against, they have to marry and they don't get to choose who their bride is. And there's a reason why how the curse was developed the way it was. But Calden starts off the story where he's like he's immortal. They're all immortal. The Dragon Kings are. He's done burying his wives and he's like just done with the curse. So he stays away from anybody because if he does come across his bride by chance, then he has to marry her within 30 days or one lunar cycle, or he dies. So he just secludes himself away from everybody. But that brings a constant winter to his land. So his people are starving and dying at the beginning of the book. And then we have the girl who is offered up to be the next bride, and that's Aerie. And she comes from an abusive household. And so this was just like the culmination to, she thought, of her life, that she was going to be sacrificed to, she thought, a dragon, to find out she's being offered marriage to a king no one has seen in 20 years. So, yeah. And there we go.
Weird. I like it. I want to read it immediately. We have here, unless I'm mistaken, someone who has read it.
Yeah, she was one of my part of my Typo Buster team.
Very cool. Bodes well for you. Now, you went ahead and started a Kickstarter for A Curse of Scales and Feathers. Why? I don't believe you did that for your previous 3 books.
No, yeah. Okay. So my previous 3 books was I did everything the way they say you should, which is I hired a cover designer, I hired an editor. Now I made a better cover than my cover designer did. So I ended up just making all my own covers anyways on that, but only because I felt my covers were better than the one I hired and got done. I got the editor. So altogether with my first series, I am just over $4,000 in debt, with the biggest portion of that was the editing. So like my third book was $1,200 of that for editing. So yeah, it's a lot of money, and there's not really a market for Irish mythology. So it's not like making tons of money. I do make money every month, but it's very small. And after I deduct like Amazon ads and stuff, which I don't spend much on Amazon ads, between $5 and $10 a month usually, I'm only making $5 to $10, sometimes $20 a month on my book. So I'm gonna be 80 before I pay off my debt. So I thought, well, I really do like writing. I'm not going to ever stop writing. If I stop publishing, okay, but I'm never going to stop writing. But I thought, okay, I need to figure out a different way to do this where I'm not in debt, because I can't continue going in debt to publishing my stuff. So yeah, that's where Kickstarter came in, when I saw some of the successes that were happening. And I thought, even if I just get my costs paid for, for the cover design and everything else, like I had to buy new ISBNs and everything for this set, because I bought a batch of 10 the first time. Well, I went through all of those already. So I had to buy a batch of 100 this time. Yeah, so I'm not in debt. I started the Kickstarter. It got fully funded. I'm over what it was funded. It's already paid for my next book cover. So it's really good.
Brilliant. I was going to ask you about that, about the first goal. See, I'm curious, would you still have tried the Kickstarter thing? Like, for example, had you not reached 1,000 on YouTube yet or something like that? It feels like your audience was just in the right place for this to actually succeed. I would be terrified to kickstart one before having enough people around me. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so they do say you should have an audience when you come to Kickstarter, because there is an audience there, but it's not very organic. Like mine became a little more organic in finding an audience because I got the sticker, Project We Love. So I've got the tag on my Kickstarter that's put there by the organization, by Kickstarter, not by me. So they go through and they look at different projects all the time. They see which ones, they have a whole article on it, but it's something along the lines of if it looks professional, if it's generating interest, that kind of stuff, then they award the project we love. When they do that, you actually get placed into a search category on Kickstarter. So people could be searching, oh, let me show me all the projects we love in fiction and publishing, and then I'd come up in the search results. I actually came up in the third one in the search results for a while there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the only way that's really organic. Otherwise, you have to bring an audience with you. Now, would I have tried? Okay, I do have to admit, I was terrified. I was terrified when I got it because I thought I'm not going to meet the funding. And if you don't meet your funding goal that you set, you don't get any of the money. And I had spent months researching Kickstarter. I had spent 6 weeks going through the course and setting up my page, my campaign. 6 weeks, sorry. I don't know if I said months or weeks there. 6 weeks doing that. And of course, not all the time you spend writing. And it's like, self-publishing. You publish a book, you're like, I spent all this time into this book and no one's buying it. So it's the same thing. It's like, well, there's one thing about putting it out there and no one's buying it, but then also putting all your money and time and effort into this platform instead of publishing it and no one's going to get it because it doesn't get fully funded. So I was terrified of that. So I don't know if I was really looking at my YouTube channel so much though, because I have a pretty robust newsletter. So, and my newsletter, my newsletter's been pretty good for almost 2 years, right? I've had it for 2 years. I had it just over 2 years. So not quite 2 years because in July is when I started it 2 years ago, 2021. Yeah. And it started really growing in November. So a little bit less than 2 years, but yeah.
Your newsletters is something we're going to dive a little deeper to in a little bit. Now that you have met the first goal with your Kickstarter, what's next over there? What's the plan going forward? I know that you definitely reached it quicker than you thought that you would.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what plan B is now.
I guess it depends if you're talking about that particular Kickstarter. There's always goals to try and meet. Yeah. So I've been trying to get to 3,000. I've gotten close and I keep falling and I get close and I fall. And I've been wanting to reach out to the group because I did buy the program to go through the program and learn directly from Russell Nolte and Monica Lionel, who have had great success running Kickstarters. Russell runs a Kickstarter like every 3 or 4 months, and he makes anywhere between $10,000 to $30,000 each time. So, and he's been doing that for a few years. So, I want to reach out to him because I had one person who backed me. It wasn't like a large amount. I don't remember if it was like $36 or $45 or something. This was early on. And then they jumped up to my highest tier, the 250. And then they canceled their pledge. And I did what Russell Nolte, he suggested. He said, when they cancel their pledge, send them a note. Say, hi, I saw that you canceled your pledge. I hope everything's okay. So that's what I did. I sent the note. And then 2 days later, she backed me again for $122. And then the very next day dropped down to like $80. So I'm like, I keep getting close to, I can't get close to, I think the closest I got was just under $2,900. So my next goal, so I have stretch goals. My next stretch goal is 3,000. But if we don't get there, we don't get there. And there are prizes that you do. So you have stretch goals that you should think of ahead of time. And I was like, yeah, right, we're not going to get there. But I still did think it all the way through to $6,000.
Just in case.
Yeah. So it's something that should be given to all of your backers. And the first couple of stretch goals are typically digital. That way, because whoever backs you digital products, they only get the digital stretch goals. They don't get physical products. So.
Okay. That was something that I had to like mess a little bit with back when I tried to do a Patreon, and I had it running for a couple of months there. And it was the idea of like the tiers and rewards for each one. And it was such a struggle for me because even if I came up with something really, really good that would make a really good price, I want everybody to have it. And it would be weird for me to like put it at this like weirdly like unattainable tier that I don't think anybody's actually going to pay for versus like making it available to everybody. It's I don't know, it's muddled.
Well,
how do you see
that we have one tier on our campaign that is like what they call our God tier?
Okay.
So I call that the Chaos Lore. I gave all my tiers names, which Russell said, do not give them cutesy names. And I'm like, but I like cutesy names. And I pulled my audience, and they like the cutesy names. So I have cutesy names. So it's called the Chaos Lore. And the idea is you want to come up with this tier that is big so that if someone backs you, it's going to pretty much cover a big portion of your goal, what you're trying to get to the goal. But the idea is that You do it because you don't think someone's actually going to get it. It's the idea that if you do have a super fan out there, they're going to get it. Which I did have. I have one gentleman who reached out to me. Which at first, when I did that tier, I said shipping. I said shipping to the U.S. is whatever the amount it was or whatever. But I didn't actually choose U.S. as a shipping destination. So this gentleman reached out to me. I don't know who he is, and he said, "I really like your chaos lore tier," and that's at $250. And he was like, "But it says it can't ship to me, and I'm here in the U.S." And I was like, "Oh no." And I thought I probably just lost a sale. So I went and I fixed it, and I sent him a message, and I told him I really appreciate it that he took the time to let me know about the issue, that it's now resolved. And and then the next day he backed it. So, and then I had the other person back it who then canceled it. But yeah.
Which happens, yeah.
But I don't even know him, so I don't know. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the best, right? Because then you think, oh, like you said, you thought you lost a sale there. Like these things like happen in these moments, and if the moment passes, it's gone, and that person may not give it another shot. So I'm glad that worked out with him. It sounds like it's working out for you. You see a future in publishing future books through the Kickstarter. Was this a one-time deal for you? How do you see the future with this platform?
Well, my hope was that I would make enough money from the Kickstarters so that I could start publishing my books on platforms and not be in debt already. I thought it would be nice if I did have a little bit extra money left over so that I could pay for future book covers and to pay for marketing, because marketing are continual costs. But I was also hoping that I could pay back the costs of the program, because that was a lot of money. So I thought my goal was, well, I think if it goes well, if I hit $1,000 on both, or if I go a little bit over, then I might be able to pay back the cost of the program by my second Kickstarter. So the idea was I do want to go on. I believe I'm going to continue with the Kickstarter for the rest of this series. At the moment, it's going to be 6 books. But there is some grumbling in the community that Kickstarter is not working as well as it used to, because it's now getting saturated. People are coming over to Kickstarter using it. And I was reading all these people just saying all these bad things. Like, I'm not making the money I was making. This is not working. What am I doing wrong? And people are like, well, it doesn't look like you're doing anything different. It's just people are making less money. And then I wrote back and I added to the conversation. I was like, can I inject some positivity? I said, maybe because it's my first time being on Kickstarter, or because I really don't know what Kickstarter was like before my time. But I'm just happy that I am fully funded. I'm paying for all my costs and expenses, and I can go ahead and publish and not be in debt. And that was my main goal, and I'm happy I got there. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's and Kickstarter, at least when it started out, was pretty much the only place doing that. And now there's so many different ways to achieve that same goal, whether it's Kickstarter, Patreon, what we do sometimes on Ko-fi. I mean, I'm selling signed copies over there, but you also have like tiers and membership options that you can do over there. I can do it through my website. I haven't yet, but I can set up a membership, plan through my very website. At a certain point, you can do it on YouTube. So it's just, you got to figure that all that wealth is getting spread out a lot broader now.
Monica, she just put out an article. It got sent to my email, and I read part of it. Was how she used her Kickstarter to fill her Patreon membership. So I didn't read all of it, but she was able to move people from Kickstarter into her Patreon.
That's very interesting. I'll have to look into that. I wonder how that worked out for her. All right, right on.
It worked out well. I didn't read the whole article, but she said these were the things I learned that worked the most, or something like that was the name of the article she sent.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So we've talked about your Kickstarter. We're going to dive a little deeper into some other stuff with Beyond the Book in a minute. But let's take a little break and do some AuthorTube Corner stuff. Okay. Where is my swipey? Oh. Okay, I got 3 for you guys this week. First up, we have with community favorite, right? JC Carpenter, uploading her own tag for the first time. And I hope that everybody goes out and does it.
Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm JC. This may or may not be the second time I'm filming this.
I edited this a little bit.
I don't burn up as I do it because I had to turn off the AC so that you wouldn't get all the noise filtering through. But not just any tag video. It is really. Why are you showing off like no one cares about your motorcycle?
Anyway, she goes on to actually give the questions for the tag, and it's all about the feel goods, man. And we don't get enough of that in the world. Shannon, you were just talking about like trying to inject a little positivity where you can, because these days we're all complaining about stuff. And so JC Carpenter's video linked down below has a great tag that I think we should all do. I'm going to do one and put the video up next week. And I hope you guys will all follow suit with that. So JC Carpenter Community Uplift tag in the description down below. And don't drive loud motorcycles through nice neighborhoods. It's rude. All right. Next up.
If I'm going to start all over again on YouTube, I would do this. I'm going to leave Man's Rainbow.
So
some things are just nice to keep. Also, gay pride and all that. It's June when I'm recording this. I know.
So she goes all into what she would do differently if she was starting over now, which is really, really great advice, because there are so many brand new authors starting for the first time on YouTube these days. And most of us don't know how to start, where to get started. We all make the same mistakes, the same pitfalls. We give each other advice. We don't listen to it. We make the mistakes, and then we realize we should have listened to the advice. So this is a great video full of great advice, like that first one, investing in good audio. The second one was research, which is a big one. Just research the heck out of everything. And she goes on from there. Go check out her video. That's Joe Wright's Starting Over on YouTube, on AuthorTube. Sorry, Shannon.
No, that's okay. I would say she was also part. I just met her through the AuthorTube writing conference.
Yes, that's right. She had a presentation, right? Mm-hmm. She had a 1 hour.
A speaker. No, she was a speaker. But okay. She was one that when Margaret and I read it, we're like, why didn't she apply as a guest speaker? And I told her that. I said, you should apply as a guest speaker. And she was like, I have a small channel. I was like, anyone can apply as a guest speaker. You had a really great topic.
Yeah, maybe next year she'll sign up for the full daily. That'd be cool. All right. Last but not least, we have Estelle Van de Velde.
May 10th, and my beta readers have nearly finished, reading my manuscript. So it's all very exciting, because then I will be able to work on draft 4. There's the copy editor, there's the draft 5, and it will be done. So, it's all very exciting.
She's happy. She's excited. She's going to go into all that on this video. And then 2 days later.
Anyhow, see ya, guys. It's May 12th, and I am tired. I feel overwhelmed by everything I have to do.
Authors, it's hard, man. It's hard. It's rough. You have these highs and these crashing lows. You're excited about this project. You're excited about the progress you're making. 2 days later, you're in a ditch. You're down in the dumps. You're like clawing to like stay afloat. And then 2 days after that, you're on cloud 9 again. So I don't know. Go watch her video. It's great. It does a whole like vlog throughout the editing process, and it's a pretty fantastic watch. I recommend it. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I know a lot about Estelle's background, right? She is a mom of a 1-year-old now. She's been asked to speak at different conferences here. She's not applying for conferences. They're coming to her and saying, would you please come present on about SEO for authors? And that prompted her to write a book. So I think that's the book she was talking about. So she was trying to hurry up and get it done because she didn't have it done for the first conference, but she wants to be able to capitalize on her other conference appearances. So yeah. But yeah, that's all part of it. Building your platform, and you're going to do different things. Like me, I did the AuthorTube writing conference, and then we've got a podcast because Ben's here. So hello, Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah. So we all had different ways that we tried to build our platform out to get known. So.
Yeah, for sure. We're getting a lot of empathy in the chat, for sure. Yeah, Ben, welcome. Life does hit hard. I want to thank you both for having me on the podcast. that was a lot of fun. I liked watching it.
Well, I thank you for coming on. It was kind of last minute. I didn't realize that we had already interviewed people, but they'd all chose later dates, and we were coming up on that first date. And I was like, or that date, and I was like, oh, we don't have anyone. We need someone. And I was like, who can we ask?
Adrian to the rescue.
Yeah.
All right. So beyond the book, I've interviewed you on this channel before. You've been on Livestream Sunday. Back then, we talked a little bit about how your military past relates to your storytelling. And if I remember correctly, the answer was not too much. It's not a huge part of your creative process. How does your background in teaching help you with YouTube and these other things that you're doing as well as your writing these days?
Well, I mean, with teaching, I always had to prepare materials ahead of time, think about what I wanted to do. I always put together like slides and stuff because I do go off on tangents. So I had to use slides just to keep me on the right track. So I think a lot of that detail stuff helped with, you know, when I used to plan videos and things like that was helpful in planning that stuff. I also have, with having that academic background, there's a bit of a difference in the way that I approach like words and syntax and things like that that other people may not have without the academic background, because I've learned more about words. I've learned more about the language, more in depth, right? To, you know, in order to teach people about writing, you have to know a bit about it to feel knowledgeable. And of course, I did go through school as well, but and I often find it's not like I came out and I was like, oh, I know this stuff people don't know. It's like I'm talking to people and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I was like, oh, I should do, like, you know, there's just the idea behind it's not called this. I called it the psychology of words, but these were things that we knew. Teaching, you know, some of it authors and writers out here know, which is like white space. You know, how many words you have on a page, the white space. If you have a huge block of text versus having more white space, that's kind of part of it, but there's a lot more in there. Like using the word because. So if you say, hey, can I cut in front of you? And that's it. Fewer people will allow you to cut in front of them than if you say, hey, can I cut in front of you because, and you just leave it like that. They'll let you cut in front of them with just the word because. So you can use some of that, the idea of these words and how they influence people to have your characters who are maybe more manipulative or whatever, things like that. So I use a lot of that kind of stuff when I'm developing my characters. And yeah.
I just learned something, and I fear what it's going to do to me. All right, cool. Tell us about the AuthorTube Writing Conference. For those of us who don't know, who may not know yet, it was a huge success this year. I was very proud to be a part of it. It's the second year running. Please tell us, what is this thing all about, and how did it come about? Just give us a little rundown.
Oh, sure. So the AuthorTube Writing Conference, it actually came about because I wanted to go to a conference, just any conference, of course. But then when I stopped teaching, my husband retired from the military. I stopped teaching. We moved to a new state, and he said he would support me whatever I wanted to do since I supported him through his military career. So I knew I wanted to be a writer. Well, we moved to 2019, toward the end of 2019. Well, we know what happened in 2020. So here I am.
What happened in 2020?
So here I was trying to get into writing, and I was so excited to go to these writing conferences because I've been to all these different conferences when I was teaching, but never a writing one. So I was looking forward to that, and then I couldn't go. 2021, then some conferences opened back up. I think it was the first year that 20 Books to 50K was back, because I don't know if they went the year. I don't think they went in 2020. But I looked at the costs at the time when I was first looking at, because you have to get your ticket early before they run out quick. And it's like around March or April when they start running out of tickets. And I missed the cutoff. Like I thought I was getting in there on time and I missed it. So I was like, oh, bummer. Well, then there was a free ticket available, and it was like first come, first serve. And I heard him put my name in the hat and I got it. Well, then I looked at flight, hotel, all that stuff. It was going to be over $1,000. And at the time, our dog, she ended up passing away, but we were already spending like $3,000 or $4,000 on her just to try and see what we could do to help her, for the end of her life. So I was like, I can't pay $1,000 for flight and hotel and everything for this 1 week. So I gave the ticket back. I thought it would be nice if there was a writing conference that was more accessible. And this was November, right? 2021. Well, this is the same time I met Barrett at the middle of October through Ben. Actually, Ben was the first author tuber who reached out to me, who said, "Hey, you should come be part of this community." And I was like, "Oh, I thought I had to have an invite." He was like, "No, just come join." And then he put me in touch with Barrett, and so I just met Barrett. And so I was looking at what everybody was doing, all these collabs and everything, and I was like, that'd be kind of cool if the conference was like here on YouTube, because I was also looking at, the online conference. I started going to some online conferences before then. I went to the Women in Publishing Conference. It was my first one I went to in March of 2021. And I was like, but I looked at that, and doing an online conference, you need a space to do it. You still have to have a venue, even though it's not physical. Well, that costs money. And I thought, well, if it costs money, we can't have it be free for people. Now it's no longer accessible if we're charging a price. So I had been thinking about it since November, and I met Dale L. Roberts at the time. I don't know if you're familiar with Dale L. Roberts. Do you know who he is? Self-publishing with Dale.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of YouTube channels now. His Dale L. Roberts channel, that's huge. It's like 40,000, maybe. No, it was 40,000 when I knew him. I think it's over 60,000 now. And then I'm a moderator on his smaller channel Monday nights. So I'm over on that. That's Self-Publishing with Dale. I met him. He came and commented on one of my videos. And I was like, dude, what was this huge guy commenting on my video? I was going to his stuff, and he said, reach out to me. And I was like, yeah, he's joking. And like 2 weeks later, Shannon, you didn't reach out to me. Reach out to me. And I'm like, okay. So then we had a meeting, and at the end of the meeting, and this was the last week in December of 2021, and I was like, Dale, I'm sorry, I didn't make this meeting with you to do this, but this idea, it's like the story that won't leave your head. I was like, this idea is, I'm going to do it. I don't have anything written yet, but can I pitch you? And he was like, okay. So I pitched him about the Author Tube Writing Conference, my vision for it and what it was. And he told me later, he was like, he didn't really get it. But what he said was, you know what? And I told him I plan to write something up, because I always write things up. He said, write it up, send it to me, and I'll let you know. And so I did. I spent the first 2 weeks in January of 2022 writing it up, and I sent it to him, and he signed on to be a keynote speaker. And at that point, I was like, this is going to be a lot of work, and I need a partner. And that's when I reached out to Jenna O'Malley at the time. And her teaching load became increased because of the shortage of teachers that happened over the next year. It was already happening, but it got even worse that year. So she had to pull out, and that's when I asked Margaret. Margaret was actually my first choice, but I had just reached out to Margaret for something, and she said she was really busy and she didn't have time for it. And it wasn't about the Off the Tube Writing Conference. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to even ask her, because she's probably too busy, and I moved on.
If she didn't have time for that, she's not going to have time for this. This is crazy.
Yeah. So, and then Dale even tried to sell me. He actually had one of those platforms where you do conferences that cost money. He actually had a free lifetime membership to one platform that was gifted to him by one of his sponsorships.
Interesting.
And he said, I'm never going to use it. Here, why don't you look at this and see if you want to use it? And I went and looked at it, and I was like, it still feels like it's kind of a gate here. Like you have to have people buy tickets, even if I set them at free, but I'm not sure if I could through that platform. But I was like, it just didn't feel like a community atmosphere, which is what I wanted. So I told him, no, thank you. So, yeah.
You had a vision, and you were going for it. Like the fact that you had this thing available to you that could have worked in some way, but it didn't work the way that you wanted your vision to work. So yeah, man, I'm fully behind that. Martin knows that I hear his advice every time, and then I go, I'm going to do this other thing instead, because that's what I want to do. Yeah. So I get it. I totally get it. A quick pause to talk to Ben here for a second. Being introverted doesn't mean you never want to interact with other people. It just means you need to recharge your batteries after you do. So you can still be introverted and be the one to reach out to Shannon and invite her into the group.
Yeah.
He said that he forgot all about your origin stories.
Well, it's when I thought of my podcast, because I was thinking of my podcast at the same time, and I was like, I don't want to do this podcast alone. I want people to do it with me. I want some friends along. And I didn't really know anybody. I knew Ben, and that was all about the same time as the Author Tube Writing Conference was stirring my mind. So it was like the podcast. And so I had picked out 2 people in my mind. I reached out to both of them, but I first reached out to Ben because he was my number 1 pick, since he was the first person I met. And I thought, okay, I do want to go ahead and reach out to this next person. So then I had reached out to Ben, and I think I came back and said, by the way, I am going to reach out to somebody else. I was thinking that we could be a trio. And he was like, yeah, no problem. And then he got back to me and said, I'd love to do this. So then I reached out, and I had already reached out then to Morgan. Morgan was my second choice. And Morgan was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. Because I had a whole list of names of people I was going to ask, because I thought people were going to say no.
Yeah, you got to have backups and backups for your backup. Yeah, that's just smart thinking. Reflections on AuthorTube Writing Conference 2023. The highs, the lows. What did you learn? What are the big takeaways from it this year for you?
Okay, so without giving away information I should not give away, what I learned was we make the rules. We need to put our foot down on the rules. And I say that because there was someone who took advantage, who kept pushing and kept pushing to the point that when they finally didn't get their way on something, they withdrew from the AWC. And I was giving and giving and giving. And even Margaret was like, no, that first thing that happened, that was very unprofessional. You should have just said no then.
Yeah, there's always a bad egg in every large group of people. You throw a big conference with a bunch of people, you're gonna run into a sour puss. But it sounds like you handled it well. It sounds like you figured it out. And
well, I was heated. I was so heated because it was within the author too. I actually texted Dale and I was like, Dale, please help me figure out what I should respond to, because I just got the email back saying, okay, well, I don't think I'm a good fit for the AWC. And I was like, please help me. I was like, I know what I think I should do, but I'm really heated right now. And he was like, can you talk? I'm like, sure. So he called me and he was just like, he calmed me down. He was like, well, I wasn't like yelling or screaming or anything, but he was like, you want to keep a good, foot going forward. You don't want this to taint the AWC, all these kinds of things that he was talking about, which that's when he told me that he really didn't understand my vision when I first told him about it. Like, yeah. But he says he's totally on board with it now. And he says that he loves the fact that it's all about the community and building, a community atmosphere and everything.
What's interesting is that he admits now that he didn't understand it then, but he did still back it, which means that your excitement and your passion for it was enough to sell him on it. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I don't get it, but she does. She clearly gets it. So I'm going to trust that she knows what she's talking about. That's awesome. Aspirations for next year.
It's so funny that you're saying you are talking about this, like, this thing's happening, because there was a point when that happened. I was already feeling overwhelmed because there were quite a few other things that went wrong before that event. And I was like, I'm done. AWC is done. I'm not doing this anymore. I said this to my group that I was with. That was
done.
Yeah, the YouTube mastermind group I was part of when we were a bit smaller. I told him, I said, I think I'm done. And then Andy had said, let it get over. Take a moment. Put some feelers out. He says, you really need more help. He was like, put out a call for help and then go from there. And Joe writes, she actually sent an email saying that she wants to help and gave me some of her qualifications. And I said, well, heck yeah, I want her help. And I'd love to set up a meeting with her after I talk with Margaret to see if Margaret and I are going to continue. And she sent me back this email that was a bullet by bullet point breakdown of different roles in the AWC could have and what that would compromise of. She put herself in for the ring for a couple of those roles, which was included marketing and advertising, social media, and then gaining sponsorships. Like, she would actually go after sponsorships. And I was like, oh, maybe we can do this. And Margaret and I met yesterday to see about continuing with the AWC, just yesterday.
Right on. So cool. It's wheels are in motion.
It's going to look probably a bit different behind the scenes for next year because of roles and things and what we may call ourselves, but it's still going to be the AuthorTube Writing Conference, but we may have a different setup in the back end, but it's still going to be something.
Yeah. Hey man, growth and figuring out how to do it a little better. It's all good. You killed it this year. I'll tell you what. Where was it? I already lost it from my screen. Darn it! Oh, there it is. That Shannon can sell salt to a slug. Take a shot, Shannon.
Yeah, said ChatGPT. That was his thing he made up. I didn't say I'm gonna take a shot every time when someone says it. He says Shannon's gonna take a shot every time she says it. Take a shot, Shannon.
Take it. Welcome, Cool Gamer. What's up? All right, so self-publishing tips and tricks that you have applied to your own works that you learned through your podcast.
Well, there's one big one. When we interviewed A.L. Knorr, I think it's Knorr. gosh, I forgot how you say her name. It's not like I think of her name all the time. I see it in my email because I'm on her email list. But she writes fantasy, contemporary fantasy, and she told us how she started her author career, which was that she wanted to do a series, but each book was a standalone and they connected with each other. So all the stories were happening at the same time. And the reasoning behind this is because this kind of goes back to this idea where we're saying with you, when we had the conversation with you, when you said, you have to write that first book and that's what sells the rest of the series. But if that first book is your very first book, it's not very good. So she thought about that ahead of time and she thought, okay, I'm gonna put this first book out there. But if it doesn't do well, that's okay, because the next book is also a first book because it's a standalone. It's in the same series. And it has all the same, it was 4 girls. The 4 books were 4 girls. They're friends. And they were together at the beginning of the books. And then they went and had their adventures and they text message each other throughout the book. And then they came back together for different things. Or one would go visit another one where she was at. They all went to different parts of the world. Like one went to Italy, one went to Poland, things like that. And she said the reason why she did that was because if one book didn't sell, then she had another book to try and get someone into the series. It also meant, because when you have a series, you often do all of your marketing and campaigning on that first book, and that's it. You don't do it to any other books in the series. But she was like, I could do marketing on every book as it came out. And that makes sense. Yeah. And that's what made the series I'm writing right now. The first 3 books are crossing over with each other. They're all standalones. Someone could buy any one of those 3 books and get into the series and like the story at any point.
That's genius. That's really smart.
Yeah. Well, she had a background in marketing too. So, and she's a USA bestseller now.
So she put her marketing knowledge into her storytelling. How interesting. That's a really smart idea. Because like you said, every single one is a standalone. Every single one is an entry point. And yet every single one has other books in its series. That's so wild.
Yeah. But it is very hard to do. I would say that.
I'll bet.
I emailed her afterward when I told her about the series. And that was like May of last year when I emailed her. And I said, I'm thinking about doing a series like that. And she said, there are some things I wish I would have added to make it better. And here are the things I would do. And she told me what she would do. But it did make it much, much harder because now I have to make sure I adhere to these timelines because I'm not a planner. So every time the 2 brothers or any of the brothers appear in each other's story, I have to make sure it follows their timeline in their book.
Yeah, I was going to say that because you said that the girls were text messaging each other throughout the book. And so if you're reading each individual book, you're going to get to those points where they were text messaging each other and you're going to see it from the other point of view. And it has to line up not only with the events that are going on timeline wise, but where they are progressively as a character, Yeah. Like what they're saying in the text even changes based on who they are, based on what's happened in the story. It sounds really, what a challenge. I kind of want to do it now.
Yeah.
It's really
fun,
good.
But I don't know if I'll ever do it like this again. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I think you would almost have to write the whole series first and then put it out.
Well, that would be ideal, but I did think about doing that, but it would take me too long before I'd start publishing anything again. Because of how much I'm able to get done. But what I did do is I wrote out a bunch of notes and I kind of wrote, it's not even a draft really. I just threw up on a page. This is what I'm thinking for book 1. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. I'm going to have a character that's doing this. I'm going to have characters doing that. I'm going to have a character here. This character is going to cross over. And I have a whole notepad of which characters just cross over into each story and what's their main arc and stuff like that. So I have a lot of stuff written down. But I don't really like to plan too much because I like discovery writing. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need a little bit of that as well. I need the discovery writing. It's important.
I say that by saying he's part of some organization. I don't know what, and I don't know why he wants to be part of the organization. I don't know how he got there.
I'll figure it out later.
What to do with this. And so he's already appeared in the first book and I'm not sure exactly what his organization does. And things just came out as I was writing. Like he said something about what his master said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I can figure out who his master is because his master's going to appear in the second book.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes with me too. So the character will say something. I'm like, well, that's a whole other character I have to design now. Because now I want to meet that character. So the reader's going to want to meet him. All right, so let's talk about this aggressive newslettering that you're doing. At one point, you even had a week there, I think, where you were putting out a newsletter a day, right? Tell me about your newsletter thing.
Are you on my newsletter?
I am.
Oh, I don't think it's a day. If you're talking about with my Kickstarter campaign,
Yeah.
I've been putting them out every week, every day, or every week on Thursday. Well, it only started 3 weeks ago, and then I've been doing them on Mondays, but not. I didn't do them all 3 Mondays. I did 2 Mondays because I didn't do it yesterday Monday. I did send a newsletter yesterday Monday, but what I did was I pulled 3,300 out of my archives, and I did hey, I just want to check in with you. It's been a minute since I talked to you. This is, you joined me, you found me through this. And I just want to reintroduce myself. I'm so-and-so, this is what I write right now. This is what I'm doing. And I threw in my Kickstarter campaign. And I said, what have you been reading since I last talked to you? Let me know. And some responded and said, don't email me again. And which I kind of assumed because there's a reason why they were in my archives, but I've got several recommendations for books over the last couple of days. So
there you go. Yeah, see, it's weird because you just never know like how many of them are going to actually respond. I mean, that's so smart though to keep the archived ones and reach out after a certain amount of time. Like, hey, I know that's smart. That's smart newslettering. Smart newslettering. You don't have to share numbers, but percentage wise, like how much of a growth have you seen over the last year in your newsletter versus where it was last year?
Well, I'm actually fewer numbers because I've gotten more aggressive with keeping people in my newsletter.
Okay.
So, it was 3,300 I pulled out of my archives. These are ones that I hadn't talked to in a year, it was pretty close to a year. About a year ago, I went through and I sent out emails, to people. And then I just saw those who never opened an email. Like since the moment they joined my email list, they never opened, started getting rid of them. I got rid of 2,500 at this time last year. So I was at 7,500 last year. I mean, there's 75 and some change. And right now I'm sitting at like 5,583. So, and I got rid of 2,500 about this time last year. So I don't know. I still grew, but
yeah,
I don't know what that.
Yeah, you did a little spring cleaning there. No, yeah.
Well, my open rate and was around like 25 to 35%, and now I regularly sit between 40 and 45%.
Yeah, I'm sitting around 35 myself for the open rate, but much smaller numbers for sure. All right. Cool. All right, let's take a little swing here at the author life. And this is just like a little update section of what we have going on lately. Because, for example, next Tuesday, it's kind of an off week for Writer's Den, and Tuber Book Club is still on break until August. So I will be doing another little live stream next Tuesday where I'm going to talk about the convention coming up and some of the events that I have coming up down the pipeline. So check that out. Newsletter at booksbyadrian.com to find out about stuff. First, buy the books. I didn't hold them up at the beginning of the show, so I'll do that now. Books, buy them. Murder Mystery set in a sci-fi fantasy world. This is the prologue that leads into it. You can get this for free in my newsletter. You can buy this anywhere, literally. Amazon is working now. Everybody who is waiting for paperbacks from Amazon, you should be getting them if you don't have them already. And if you have not ordered one yet, now is the time to do so. eBooks, paperback, signed copies, links below. Shannon, how about yourself? I see you reaching for stuff. Please.
I was trying to find your book. I got 3 stacks of books right here, and I was like trying to find like the stickies that I put into your book. And I was like, I don't feel anything, and I can't see it without me going underneath the desk.
Forget about my book. Let's talk about yours because I know that you got stuff going on. So I know you got the Kickstarter going on, but you do have your 3 books from before. Yeah. Anything you want to plug? Any events coming up? Sure. Anything like that?
Actually, today through the 21st, the first book in my series is free. Blood of a Lily is a free ebook. So, boom. Yeah. Boom. And that is my last Kindle Unlimited promo because it comes out the 27th of July. My other 2 books are already out. And so by the end of this month, I will be going wide with all my books.
Beautiful. So, nice. Yeah. That's got to feel pretty good.
It does. It does. I mean, I told myself I wanted to give myself 2 years in Kindle Unlimited. But when I saw the page reads just drop at the beginning of this year, and it was right in the conjunction with all the changes in the categories, that was part of it. I think I honestly feel I read it somewhere about the new guy that came on that he and I don't even remember what job he took, something to do with Kindle or something to do with, not Kindle, Amazon. He took it, some new guy came on, some new position in Amazon, and basically did not have a focus on books. He didn't think that was as important. And that was around the same time period the category changes, and my page reads dropped. And I thought, well, maybe it's just January, February. They did pick up a little bit, but they've never gone back up to where they were at, and they just have continued to just drop from there. Like, I don't think I have any page reads for June, none for July so far. I never had a month where I didn't have page reads. So it could be too that my books are just, I've saturated what I can in Kindle Unlimited. Maybe it didn't take a full 2 years. So I had decided, well, I'm just going to take them out as soon as I can. And so it's a little bit earlier than 2 years, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, still cool that you're going wide though, broaden your reach.
And everyone says that there is that when you go from Kindle Unlimited to wide, you're going to have a drop in your income, is what everyone says. And I'm like, well, my income is not very much anyways. So I don't know what that drop's going to look like.
Yeah.
I'm only making, what did I make? I think I made $17 last month for my books. And this month, I think I've already hit like $15 this month for my books. But I didn't make very much money. So.
And that's, again, that was still through just Kindle Unlimited, right? Okay.
Well, yeah. I'm not wide yet anywhere else with anything. Even though my other books are out, I just felt weird making them wide when they were the second and third book in a series.
How are you doing it wide? Are you going individually to each bookseller, or are you doing like a blanket one like I do with Drafted Digital? What's your method?
A hybrid. So I'm on Drafted Digital, nice. But I'm also doing direct to Barnes & Noble and direct to Apple and Google Play.
Okay, cool. Good, cool. Yeah, Drafted Digital is a big one because it just has such a reach. You can get your book pretty much anywhere with that. Good, awesome. Tell me about reaching 1,000 on YouTube. What was that like? Has that changed anything in how you do things for your channel? I have noticed a lot of streams. You're very consistent with your sprinting schedule. I'm seeing a lot more people in your chat during your streams and during your sprints. Tell me a little bit about the growth of your channel.
So growing my channel, I always knew that whatever strategies I chose, I wanted them to align with what either my values or with growing my author platform. And pretty early on, I realized, now this is February of last year, is when I held my first panel, which is AuthorTube and author branding. And really, it's very, very hard to do that. If you make your YouTube channel and you're talking to writers, you're not really reaching readers. Exactly. So at that point, I thought, okay, what can I do? And I'd seen that already. I was like, what can I do that can, just help build community that makes me feel like I'm part of a community that goes with my values and builds my channel at the same time, or help me in some way. So the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks podcast, that came for me, I always say this, is a selfish place where it came from. I want to know what other authors are doing. What are they doing? What's working for them? What's not working for them? And then doing and so the podcast then allowed me to find that information, but it also allowed us to get that out to an audience of whoever wanted to listen to it. And then the AuthorTube writing community. And I knew the podcast may contribute to growing my channel. I didn't know how much it would contribute, but I knew it would possibly contribute. And then, of course, the AuthorTube writing conference, that was there because the moment that I started thinking about conference and then I thought YouTube, and I was like, oh, that could be a growth strategy too. And that did really grow my channel as well. So getting to 1,000 subscribers, it's a path I took that's probably not entirely replicable by too many people in the same way that I did it.
Sure.
So, podcast, anybody can start a podcast. Actually, I have an idea for another podcast, but I just don't have the time for it. But
you're busy.
Yeah, I just don't have the time for it. So there's that. But as far as like the sprints and streams and stuff like that, that was a decision not based on YouTube growth. In fact, YouTube growth came into it, but only as a reflex. So at the end of last year, when I looked at my goals, I did not write as much as I wanted to. And yes, I did. I started new projects. We started the Self-Publishing Tips and Trick podcast, and I even talked with Ben and Morgan. We had a meeting about it. We all want to kind of write more. So what can we do? And so we dropped the podcast down to 2 seasons, during the year, during 2 quarters instead of the whole year. But I thought, what can I do to get more writing in? And I thought, well, one, I can't continue making weekly videos because I made a video that came out every Tuesday before that. I was like, I can't continue this weekly video schedule because it takes me hours. Write the script, film it, edit it, get it out there. It would take me hours to get that done. I was like, those are hours I could be writing instead. And so I thought, okay, cutting out the videos. And I was like, great. If I cut out the videos, that's what's bringing me my audience. That's how people were, subscribing to me. I didn't do a whole lot of writing sprints at the time. I think I did one. I just started doing them like every Friday there at the end of last year. But that I hadn't really been doing them. Wait, no, I did start doing sprints and Fridays at the beginning of the year. Yes, I did. I started at the beginning of the year. Because I remember now Colin came on with me. But I wasn't doing them every day. I was just doing them on Fridays. And so I thought, what can I do? What can I do to give myself more time to write and not have my channel drop off? And so I decided at the beginning of January, and I took off the first 2 weeks of January. That was my vacation time. Then I was like, okay, Monday through Thursday, I'm going to do sprints every day. Friday, every other Friday. Then I'll do my Pyramid War sprints. And so that's, and I said this in my goals for last year, that I also was hoping that during the nano months that I could do a sprint or stream nearly every day if I could. So that's where that came about. And that was a way to give myself dedicated time to write. And it worked beautifully in the beginning of the year. By middle of February, I finished my first book, and I started it at the beginning of January. And I had written previous drafts, but I put them away because I do like 0 drafts. They're all 0 drafts, basically, even though it's 1 draft, 1, 2, and 3. But I put it away. I start over again. I may pull some like paragraphs or some pages sometimes, but I'm usually rewriting stuff, redeveloping characters, things like that. So yeah, in 6 weeks, I got my book done. I haven't written another book since then, though. So.
But during those streams since then, have you been using those sprints to getting other work done, getting work done for the AWC? So see, that still counts as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, and marketing, because that's the thing, is that with me, I had the presentation on AWC about like showing up, clocking in, doing the work, clocking out, and that I apply that, of course, to my writing, but my writing is an aspect of the author career. There are other aspects to it. And so that time is often interchangeable. If I have a big project going on, if I'm preparing for the AWC and I need to write the script and I need to practice it or all that, I use my writing time to do that. I consider it still work. I consider it still writing, or doing something for my author career. So yeah, as long as you're still getting the work done.
And what I would say is, to get fully monetized. Like now you can get monetized at 500 subscribers with 3,000 watch hours, but you don't get the full monetization. You can't get like the ads and stuff like that. You don't get that still. Yeah, you don't get that. And that's where you really make your money. You don't get that until you hit that 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. And I never even thought, I looked at the watch hours, and I remember, because I meet with MK Williams once a month. I'm part of her community memberships program. So we meet once a month and we talk about things. I remember her saying, hey, you're getting close to 1,000. A couple hundred more, whatever it was that I don't remember where it was at. I think it was in January. I think when we started talking about this, she's, what's your watch hours look like? And I said, I'm like right at 3,400 watch hours. So I still had more watch hours to go. But then I started doing those sprints, and I'll tell you, by the end of February, I was at 6,000 watch hours just for January and February.
Nearly doubled in a month.
Yeah. So by the time I actually got monetized, I was over 8,000 watch hours. So that was, there's a tip for those of you, those of us in the AuthorTube community, or even BookTube, because Read with Dr. B is kind of more of a, I think, part of the BookTube community as well. That if you want to hit your watch hours, so you're getting close on your subscriber numbers, to do your watch hours, do a bunch of sprints. And it, like you said, there are people that come to my sprints. It didn't start off that way. I had a few people who showed up. So I think being consistent does help with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. The reliable schedule is a big one, because whoever is lining up with your schedule, that's how they get their writing done. Yeah. It's when Shannon's on screen, and if you're not, they're probably looking for somebody and wasting time instead of doing the writing. Right on. Okay. Well, we're getting close to the end here. One more big question. How do you manage this workload? You have expressed being, low on sleep. In recent days, we all want you to be healthy and okay. How do you manage all of this stuff that you do? Because you do a lot, and I just said do.
No, I wasn't gonna say it, but okay.
I saw it in your eyes. You lit up. You're like, I'm
like, I'm not gonna say that on air. I'm not gonna repeat it. Yeah, so I would not recommend what I did, which was I was basically getting 3 and 4 hours of sleep for quite a few weeks there. I think I went like 4 or 5 weeks that way. I took a week where I slept a lot. And I remember sleeping, that week I took off, I slept all day Sunday. And I remember Wednesday I did my sprints, and then I fell asleep for the rest of the day. That I don't recommend that. And then I went another few more weeks getting 3-4 hours because I was still leading up to the AuthorTube writing conference. And then I know that, like, I think Mama Maggie put in there, or somebody put in there, the schedule page, because the schedule page for the AWC went down Thursday night. And of course, AWC.
I remember.
And I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning wrestling that thing and still could not get to work. I went to sleep for 2 hours, woke back up at 5, went back to work on the schedule page, and I didn't get done until midnight that night. So it was heck. And I would not suggest that for anybody. I mean, there was a reason why. I mean, it wasn't just the AWC, right? I had my Kickstarter. It was starting at the same time. And that was doing the Kickstarter at the same time was trying to leverage the audience I would have access to. And to hopefully meet my goal, because I was freaking out that I wasn't going to meet my goal for the campaign. So my husband actually just asked me, would you do it that way again? And I was like, as a first timer, no. But now that I know what I'm doing with Kickstarter, I said, because that time with the Kickstarter wasn't just me setting up my Kickstarter. I was going through the class and the course and watching things over and over again and trying to figure out how I want to do stuff. So, okay, so workload. I can't say I'm much of a planner, even with my life. Like, a lot of stuff takes place in my head. So, like, I know, like, long term, here's what's coming up, here's what I'm doing, and I go through it. I go through a litany in my head. Okay, for the podcast, what's next? Okay, for the AWC, what's next? For my writing, what's next? What marketing do I need to think about next? And I'll go through things. And then usually at the beginning of the day, I try to write down a list of things I need to get done, like a to-do list. And I always know by writing down that list, I'm only going to get 2 or 3 done, possibly 4. So I need to make sure I mark those as the ones I get done for the day.
To-do lists are a big one for me too. I recently was able to finally integrate my to-do list into my Google Calendar, and holy crap, like, it just makes everything so much easier now.
It's my to-do list. This is how I have to do it, so they can throw away every day.
See, if I love the whole, like, tactile nature of writing things down. It helps me to remember things better, but I'll inevitably, like, lose that paper in a pile, or that notebook will just become another notebook among many other notebooks.
That's why mine's a pad. Because same thing, I kept losing my notebooks because I have several notebooks. So here, and I can just rip it off and then start anew. And I at least I do have, like, my main notebook here for logging my writing. Everything I do writing wise, I log in here, and I have this, and I just have it all set right here. It's standing up in front of me, so I don't lose it.
Nice. And you say you're not good at organizing. You seem pretty organized to me.
Yeah, no, I can organize. It's just like thinking about having, like, some people when they plan stuff, they, like, write, everything down and they plan it all out. And I kind of do that. Like at the end of December of last year, I planned out how many books I wanted to write this year and what that would look like as far as editing, getting readers, and blah, 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 blah. Everything went smoothly for the first book. But the second book is supposed to be almost done and going out to readers, and it's not even written yet. So.
If it's not on the Google Calendar, it doesn't exist. Yeah. See, at least that way I can pull it up on my phone no matter where I am.
See, if I have to pull it up somewhere, that's it. I'm not going to remember to pull it up because I have to remember to pull it up versus it sitting here in front of me. Yeah,
that's another good point. A lot of my stuff goes undone because of that too. You're absolutely right. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here for the Writer's Den. Shannon, thank you so much for being our guest today. We are going to stick around and do the green room together, where we're just going to chit chat for a little while. I'll cover a few things that we didn't get to on here if we need material, but for the most part, we got through everything. Thank you so much again for being here. Thank you to everybody who was in the chat. Shannon, I'm going to give you the floor one last time to go ahead and say goodbye to everybody. And a friendly reminder to all before she takes the floor that the green room, while it is a pre-recorded kind of podcasty type situation where we're just going to talk to each other and then upload that later, there is a window where you can watch. You can't interact with us because it's supposed to just be me and her, but you can watch on Facebook in the Books by Adrian Facebook group. Link is in the description down below. All right, y'all. Shannon, take the floor.
Well, thank you so much for bringing me on, Adrian. I really do appreciate it. I know when I reached out to Adrian to see, like, hey, can I come on at any point just so I could talk about the Kickstarter a little bit? And he was like, yeah, but everyone knows you, and then we have the same audience. I'm like, so? I was like, kind of the idea of 7 touches, right? So if you hear it often enough, eventually you'll buy it. So that was the idea. And I'm so grateful that that you brought me on, Adrian. For those who don't know me, my name is Shannon. I write under the pen name of S.D. Huston. I am changing in my goals to writing a fantasy romance series about dragons and magic and curses, and I'm having lots of fun. I'm really enjoying this series. And I can't wait for A Curse of Scales and Feathers to actually be available on platforms. It is right now in my Kickstarter. It probably will not be available on retailers until the end of the year. So if you would like to get it now, well, not right now, but in the next couple months, you'll have to support the Kickstarter. Gosh, I feel like I'm lost of what I should say.
I think you nailed it. Go and check out the Kickstarter. Link is in the description below. I'm looking very much forward to reading this because it's got everything that I want. It's got mythical creatures and dragons and, seemingly a princess sort of, because she's marrying a king. I don't know. It sounds cool. I'm going to check it out. All right. Thank you once again for being here. For everybody back home, thank you for coming. Come back next Tuesday. We're going to talk about what's coming up. And the Tuesday after that, we have a guest that I met at the book fair here in Gainesville, the same one where I met our first guest this season, Winsome. So another great author with another interesting book, very, very different from everything that we've covered before. This one's actually a bit of a thriller, so that's going to be fun. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. And right on, writers. We're out. Bye.